Okay, so for this project, I'm going to show you how to get started inside of Blender and create a basic hand anatomy. So in part 2, we're going to animate it, add some tendons and some bones. That's going to allow you to actually bend the different fingers for this hand. For part 1, for this video, I'm going to show you how to extrude different vertices, extrude different face walls to add some color inside of Blender. So let's go and get started. Okay, so we're going to go inside of Blender. What you're going to do is you're going to click off the screen. You're going to click on this gray area on the back here. Then I'm going to click on the cube. I'm going to click Tab to go into Edit Mode. Tap the letter A on your keyboard. You're going to tap A on your keyboard to make sure you have all the vertices selected. Then you're going to tap the letter M and then at Center to move all those vertices towards the center of your work plane. Now we're going to go over here to the right hand side. We're going to give this 2 modifiers. You're going to find this wrench tool. This tool looks like a wrench. You're going to click on that. You're going to click on Add Modifier. Click on the drop down menu. Then go down to where it says Skin. Then you're going to go back to Add Modifier and then Subdivision Surface. Make sure you add the Skin modifier first and then the Subdivision second. Otherwise your results might not come out the same way if you add the Skin modifier first and then otherwise you might turn out with different results if you don't add them in that order. So in order to scale up a vertex, you're going to hold down Control, tap the letter A, and then you can drag out away from the center. Now we're going to go into front view. So you can tap the number 1 if you have a number pad on your keyboard. If you don't, you can hit the tilde accent mark that's next to the number 1 on the top part of your keyboard. So if you have the number 1, there's a button to the left. It looks like a little curve. Go ahead and tap that. And you can click on front view. So make sure you're in front view. On the top left, it should say front view. Now I'm going to create the forearm for this hand here. I'm going to tap the letter E and then Z to make sure we're moving upward. I'm going to zoom out here. So if you get out of view, you could again tap that tilde mark. It's the left button to the number 1 on top of your keyboard. So let's say you need to scoot over, you want to see the top part of your forearm. You can hold down Shift on your keyboard and then click and hold the middle mouse button. It's going to be that wheel on your mouse, and then you want to click and then drag upwards so you can see the top part of your forearm. Now I'm going to make this a little bit wider. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag over both the vertices, right? I have a vertice on top and a vertice on the bottom. I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to hold down Control, tap the letter A, and then drag outward. Now I'm going to click off, and then I'm only going to select this bottom vertex down here, right? So you can tell it's selected because I have it selected as orange. And I'm going to click on Mark Root over here on the right hand side. Now I'm going to click off. I'm going to go back to front view, so I'm going to click on that tilde, again that button to the left hand side of the number 1. I'm going to zoom in. Again, if you need to pan up or you need to scoot up, you're going to hold down Shift, middle mouse button, and I'm going to click on that top vertex on top. Now this vertex on top here, I'm going to extrude it. So I'm going to tap the letter E and then drag up. And then if I want to be able to see the lines and the vertices through this solid mode, and the way you can tell if you're in solid mode is if you tap the letter Z on your keyboard. Over here, this will be in a blue, right? So you're in solid mode right now. So what you want to do is you want to hold down Alt next to the keyboard, hold down Alt and then tap the letter Z. And you're going to be able to see through your solid, you're going to see the vertices and the lines there. So now with this top vertex selected, I'm going to click back on it. I'm going to tap on the loose button here on the right hand side. And then I'm going to extrude outward from that vertex there. So I'm going to click back on that vertex, E. I'm going to drag out for our thumb. And then if you need to scoot up, again, you want to hold down Shift, click and hold your middle mouse button to drag upward. I'm going to go back to that original vertex, E, clicking off, going back to that original vertex, E, to drag up, going back to original vertex, E, going back to the original vertex, E, and then dragging out to the left there. Now I'm going to click and drag my mouse over these 6 vertices, so the fingers there, and then where we created that wrist. I'm going to hold down E. I'm going to hold down Control, tap the letter A, and then drag these towards the center. Now I'm going to click off, I'm going to go back to these vertices, E, and then drag out. Going to the next finger, E. Next finger, E. Drag upward. Next finger, and then drag outward. So I'm going to rotate it around so you can see what that looks like. It's starting to look like a hand. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to select all these vertices except for this one here in the center. So I'm going to click and drag over, and if you select that one by accident, you can hold down Shift, click on it to deselect, and then I'm going to hold down Control, tap the letter A, and then drag towards the center to make these look a little bit more like fingers here. You want to make sure that these fingers towards the webbing aren't overlapping. So try to scale down so that these webbings between each finger is not overlapping at all. So if you want to make adjustments to these fingers, I'm going to go to the front view. Again, hold down tilde. Hover over the front view. And you could, if you need to make the pinky, right? So if this is the thumb and this is the pinky, if this needs to be thinner, you want to select these two vertices. And then Control, hold down Control, tap the letter A, and then drag towards the center. Right, maybe this pinky is a little bit too long and you want to make it a little bit shorter, so you could click off, click on that end vertice, tap the letter G, and then drag towards the wrist part here. So you could adjust some of these fingers accordingly. And maybe this finger needs to be a little bit thinner, so I'm going to select these two vertices. I'm going to select that one that's a little bit towards the center, hold down Shift to select the outer one, Control A, and then drag towards the center of that finger there. Maybe this middle finger needs to be a little bit longer. I could drag out this vertice, so tap the letter G to move it around, click on the outer vertice, and you can even change the spacing. Right, so there's that vertice there, tap the letter G, and then go back to this one, G, and then I'm going to bring this pinky a little bit closer to this ring finger. So I'm going to tap G, and this will be if this is the thumb, this will be the index finger. So I'm going to probably scale this one down, so I'm going to make sure that these two vertices are selected, Control A. And so you want to go around to each finger and then make those adjustments accordingly. So I'm going to rotate around my hand, see if everything looks okay. And so what you could do is you could hold your left hand up. If you're using your mouse with the right hand, hold it up. And if this was the thumb here, right, this is the pinky, and try to make it look as close as possible to your hand here. So maybe even this index finger, so maybe even this middle finger could be a little bit straighter up. All right, but make sure you're in the front view when you're making these changes here. So I'm going to go back to object mode. I'm going to apply these skins here. So I'm in object mode, I selected my hand. I'm going to click on this drop down menu here, click on apply. Same thing with the subdivision. Make sure you're still in object mode, click on this drop down menu, it's this bottom arrow down here, click on apply. So if I hit tab, you're going to see that this whole hand here is now a mesh. So we're actually going to add a little bit more mesh to this hand here to smooth it out. I'm going to go back to object mode. I'm going to go to add modifier. I'm going to add another subdivision surface, and it's going to smooth it out a lot more than what we had originally. So now I'm going to right click on my object. I'm going to click on shade smooth, and it's going to smooth it out a lot more. So now I'm going to go down here to the bottom. I'm going to add a texture, click on this material properties here. It's going to be a little bit further down from where our modifier tool is. You're going to click over here where it says material, type in skin, and at the top here you're going to hover over here and it's going to say Material Preview. So in this blue text that appears, it's going to say Material Preview. You can also tap the letter Z and Material Preview will be down here at the bottom. And I'm going to click over here where it says Base Color, and I'm going to drag my color wheel around so I can find a skin tone color. I'm going to go down here. You have a menu bar here, and you could drag it down. You could go down to where it says Roughness. Change this color so it's not as glossy. You can make it a little bit more matte or flat, and you can change that to 0.8. So right when you change it to 0.8, it got rid of some of that gloss or that shine from your hand. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a sleeve to this hand here, and I'm going to go to Edit Mode. I'm going to go to Front View. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to hold down Shift, middle mouse button to drag down towards the center. So I'm clicking and dragging. So now that I'm down here at the bottom, I'm going to go over here to the top left. I'm going to click on Face Mode. I'm going to hold down Alt and tap the letter Z if you're not already in X-ray mode, right? So you want to see these little vertices in the center of each of your faces. So I'm going to tap Alt Z to make sure that you're selecting the front faces and the faces that are behind that we can't see through this model here. So you want to make sure that you also see these vertices inside of each of the faces, and that's going to indicate that you are clicking correctly. Now I have these walls here, or these faces here, that are diagonal. So I'm going to stop selecting once I get towards this face here, or this wall that's a little bit flatter, a little bit straighter. Okay, so I'm going to start from the bottom right, click and drag up. I'm going to stop right here. I'm not going to go towards where you have these more angular shapes, because we're going to try to make a sleeve. Now I'm going to go ahead and hold down Shift, tap the letter D. That's going to duplicate, and then I'm going to tap the Enter button. And that's going to duplicate and put it exactly in the same spot right on top of where the original faces and vertices were. And while it's still selected, I'm going to tap the letter P on my keyboard. Where it says Selection, I'm going to click on that, and it's going to create a separate layer. Now if you want to isolate that hand that we duplicated, you could click over here on the top right and then click on /. That / is going to be the same button as the question mark button that's next to the Shift button. So you could just tap the forward button or the question mark button, and it's going to isolate that part that we duplicated. So at this point we could rename that layer. You could double click it, call it Sleeve. And if you want to bring back that original hand, you could click on / again. And it's going to show both the sleeve and the hand. Now we're going to add a modifier. So we're going to go back to the wrench while we have the sleeve selected. And we're going to click on Add Modifier. We're going to go down to Solidify. And here where it says Offset, we're going to change that from -1 to 0. Now we're going to change the thickness that's just above the offset from 0.01 to 0.2. Now we're going to go back to Materials. So just a few tools down, we're going to go down to Material Properties. And we're going to tap the plus sign over here on the right. And we're going to tap here where it says New. And we're going to click here where it says Material. I'm going to call this Sleeve. Now I'm going to go down to Base Color and then find a color for your new sleeve. Now you're going to find a color. And if you can't see a color, you want to click here where it says Skin. Click on the minus sign and you should be able to see your sleeve just below that. So if you zoom in towards the sleeve, you can see that it is curved. We want to straighten that out. So we're going to go down to where it says Object Properties. Click on Normals. And then you want to click on this check mark here where it says Auto Smooth. So then I went ahead and straightened out that sleeve there. Now I'm going to save this file. So I'm going to go over here to the top left where it says File. Scroll down to where it says Save As. We could actually pick the location. I'm going to click here where it says Windows. I'm going to click on Users. I'm going to click on my name here. It might be your student ID. Then I'm going to go here to where it says OneDrive. Make sure you're sipping on the OneDrive. And then I'm going to click on Documents. Then you want to go over to the academic year that we're currently in, the period you have in my class, the semester we're currently in, and then go ahead and create a new folder. The way that you can create a new folder from this view here is clicking on top. It's going to say New Directory, but that's going to be the same thing as a folder. I'm just going to call this a Waving Hand. and make sure you go inside that folder. And then I'm going to call this waving hand. Save it as a blend file. Just save it as a blend file automatically, or you should see that extension at the end of your file. And I'm going to click on Save As. Alright, so you're going to see the path of that file name. So it should be inside your documents, the academic year we're currently in, the period you have a class, the semester you have a class, the folder, and then the name of the file. Okay, so if you have any questions for this first part of the waving hand, how to create these different layers, how to use vertices, how to go into different modes for some of these shortcuts on your keyboard, go ahead and let me know. Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And feel free to watch any of the other related videos.